All right, this video is about parenting styles. Now, I usually go and talk about this in class, and it works out beautifully. And I may actually still do this in class. But here's what I want you to do is I want you to think about your own parents. So your mom and your dad, okay? If you have step parents, then let's pick the two people that you live mostly with, okay? So mom and dad, whatever, okay? And I want you to think of your mom and your dad, and we're going to rate them. So, shh, I won't tell them if you won't tell them. So, here's what we're going to do. Starting with the first thing you're going to rate them on is their level of warmth and responsiveness. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, where would you rate your mom and your dad? So, 1 being not warm or responsive, 5 being very warm, very responsive. Okay, so that's the first level. So mom gets a number, dad gets a number between 1 and 5. Then I want you to go and rate for each of them how controlling and demanding they are. Okay, so again, on a scale of 1 to 5. So 1 being they are not controlling or demanding at all, 5 being very controlling and demanding. Okay, so mom should have 2 numbers, dad should have 2 numbers. Now, here's this thing, and if you have had me in econ, it kind of makes it almost look like a graph here, but it's not. It's more of a scatter plot. So I want you to rate your parents on a scale of 1 to 5, and like I said, it's great when we do this in class, so I may still do this. But we're going to actually plot these on kind of a scatter plot. So here's 1 to 5 for warmth and responsiveness. Here's 1 to 5 for controlling / demanding. So think about where your mom would be and where your dad would be. So kind of think of them as like coordinates. So if you think your mom is like a 4 on warmth and responsiveness, but a 2 on controlling demandingness, you'd put a dot there. Okay. But if you think your dad is like a 2 on warmth and responsiveness, but like a 5 on controlling / demanding, you'd put a dot there. Okay. So kind of visualize that. I do suggest that you kind of draw this in your binder for your notes on parenting. All right, so how does this have to do anything to do with parenting styles? Well, there are 4 types of parenting styles. So there's kind of 4 quadrants here. So the first quadrant is the authoritarian parent. So the authoritarian parent is the parent that has a high degree of control, but very little warmth. So they are kind of the one that is the drill sergeant, the one that is going to definitely be giving orders, and there's no question about it. So my example of authoritarian parent, I hate to say it, is my father-in-law. My father-in-law is ex-military. He retired from the military when my husband was in high school. But both my husband and his sister, so my sister-in-law, would totally agree that he was authoritarian parent. He was definitely, this military side of things. They had rules about what they could and could not do. They were very strict, and you did not question. You came home, you did your homework. If you were done with homework, you read a book. You did not turn on the TV. You had strict curfew and bedtime, even through high school. My sister-in-law had rules about when she could wear makeup. They had rules about things like, when they could obviously date, right? That's kind of authoritarian. They didn't explain the rules. There wasn't talked about. It was just, this is the rule. This is what we're going to do. One of the interesting things about my father-in-law, to kind of finish it off, is that when my husband and I got married, and then a few years later we started having kids, both my husband and my sister-in-law were both saying that they weren't real sure how my father-in-law was going to do with our kids. And they were stunned when they saw him as a grandparent, because as a grandparent, you can be soft, right? As a grandparent, you can kind of be a pushover. And they both looked and their jaws just dropped about how, he'd held this baby and he'd talking to baby talk to them. And he's just like, what? So that's what an authoritarian parent looks like. Okay, so what about some of the other styles? Well, then you have the one authoritative. Don't get confused. Authoritarian, authoritative. Authoritative is this one that has a high degree of warmth and responsiveness, but they also have a high degree of control. So this is the parent that is going to have rules, but they're oftentimes going to talk with their kid about those rules, and they're going to be malleable and changeable. I can definitely say that my parents were authoritative. We constantly had discussions about why we do things. And we talked about, okay, this is the rule. This is why we are placing this rule. This is what's going to happen if you break that rule. Great example. So, for example, I honestly can say that I did not have a curfew in high school. I didn't. Why? Because my parents knew me and they knew my friends. I hate to say it, but as you could, I know it's not shocking. I was a goody two shoes. I did nothing, right? My friends and I, we went and hung out at the mall. We went over to each other's houses. We went out to dinner. We went out to the movies. We didn't get into trouble. However, when it came time for my sister or my brother, okay, the rules were slightly different for them because they were different people. And that's what authoritative parents do. They kind of change and kind of roll with the punches depending upon, how things are going, right? That's authoritative. Doesn't mean that there isn't any rules. It means that there are rules, but we're going to work together. And again, this is still a parent-child relationship. So what about on this side? So one that a parenting style where they have a very high degree of warmth and responsiveness, but a low degree of controlling and demandingness is what we call the permissive parent. So the permissive parent is someone is going to be really, warm, touchy-feely, but they have absolutely no control of what's going on. These are the parents that just want to be the kid's friend. Okay. And oftentimes, parents sometimes slide like that, especially, when you get into teenage years. And yeah, so good example of permissive. When I was in high school, I babysat for a family that had two girls that were like elementary school age, but they were, upper elementary. And I babysat them during the summer, and there was times where, because this was before I could drive, that we would go on an outing in the summer where the mom would go and take us someplace in the morning, and then she'd pick us up on our lunch hour and then bring us back to their house. And I was kind of in charge of them when we were wherever we were going. So we went to the water slide, for example. My town had a water slide. And we did that a couple of times. But it did get to be the point, and I kind of wonder if this happened because parents got divorced at some point. But they get to the point where, number one, the youngest was kind of a brat sometimes. But they got to be the point where I distinctly recall one day where the youngest, her name was Jenna, wanted to go to the water slide. And she was asking me if we could go to the water slide. And I said, well, Jenna, we didn't arrange with your mom for her to take us to the water slide today, so we can't go to the water slide. She's like, but I want to go to the water slide. I'm like, well, Jenna, we don't have a way to get there. We can talk to your mom tonight when she gets home about going tomorrow, but we can't go tonight. We can't go today. So Jenna proceeded to go, and she's like, I'm going to call my mom. So she calls her mom at work and proceeds to say to her mom, Mom, I want to go to the water slide. And I couldn't exactly hear the entire conversation of her mom's side, but basically her mom was telling her, Jenna, oh, I'm busy. I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. Mom, I want to go to the water slide. I want to go to the water slide now. And she proceeded to yell at her mom on the phone. I don't know about you. How would your mom respond to you or any child in your family that did this? Now, I said that my parents are authoritative, but still, if I did that to my mom on the phone, she would hang up on me, and then we would have a lovely discussion when she got home. By the way, the end of the story is, yes, we did go to the water slide, so Jenna did get her way. Again, it's that whole idea of, oh, I just want to make you happy, and I want to be your friend. Not really a whole lot of rules, not really a whole lot of control, and not really a whole lot of punishment either. Okay, so now you're probably asking yourself, what the heck's going to go here? This is the neglectful parent. So this is the parent that has low control and low warmth. What does that look like? Well, that's going to be a sad, sad story. So that's going to be the case of the parent that not only doesn't care, so they don't care what their kid does, but they have no control over their kid either. So they don't even show them affection, and oftentimes it's basically neglect. I mean, you're neglecting, like it says, you're neglecting and you're not even paying attention to that kid. You don't care what they do. And I know a lot of you teenagers out there like, sounds sweet to me. No, actually, it's not. It's a sad, sad state of affairs. All right, so the second half of this is I have an article for you that talks about the long-term effects of these parenting styles. So I have an article for you to read. It's not very long, and then I have some questions for you to answer. When we come back to class, I'll probably have you actually plot on the board where your mom and your dad are. So be prepared to do that because it is always fascinating to see how your parents compare to everyone else's parents. All right, that's it. Have a good day.